It's been almost 20 years since a young American student studying abroad was thrown into an Italian jail cell and accused of murdering her roommate. Almost immediately, Amanda Knox became a household name as the internet began to dissect her every look, her every move, arguably looking for all the things that made her look guilty. And it worked. Because between the internet and the flawed Italian prosecution, Amanda was convicted of that murder, and she was jailed. And it would be another 4 years behind bars before they realized their mistake and righted that wrong. Amanda, let's be clear, was fully cleared of that murder, even though authorities tried to stick her with some minor technicalities afterwards. And although that should have been the beginning of an effort to reclaim her good name and her life, it was instead the beginning of a whole other journey that she had no idea lay ahead. Battling the stigma, the haters, the naysayers, and the obstinate trolls who refuse to accept the truth that she's not guilty. Amanda took pen to paper, and she's written all about the roadblocks that she never expected in her new memoir, Free: My Search for Meaning. Sprinkled throughout the book, anecdotes of what happened to her in that Italian prison, and let's just say it ain't like America over there. Amanda Knox is an exoneree. She's a journalist, an advocate for media ethics and criminal justice, and she also co-hosts the podcast called Labyrinths. I spoke with Amanda just a few hours ago. This is your second memoir.
Yeah.
And this really focuses on some things I didn't think were going to happen.
Okay. Okay, yeah.
Being in the world of crime.
Neither did I.
Right? I can imagine. In my line of work, those who have been through the criminal justice system and have been treated unfairly don't really want to go back to that pool and dabble and find out why. But you did. You went back to the prosecutor who put you away, asking questions. Yeah. Tell me, A, why, and B, what'd you ask?
Great question. And you're right. Everyone that I talked to in the lead up to doing this and making this decision, in the innocence community, my friends who are lawyers, my friends who are exonerees, my own family, everyone thought I was crazy. Everyone thought that I had a weird fixation on this, I had Stockholm syndrome maybe, like I was clearly interested in this human being who had hurt me, and there was some understanding on the part of the exonerees that I talked to because they want to understand why this had happened to them, but they all told me, it's a losing game. Your prosecutor is never going to see you as a person. He's never going to admit that he's wrong, and you're just wasting your time. And I was afraid of that. Like, a part of me first reached out to him because I wanted to get in touch with him outside of an adversarial system where, you know, as you know, like the courtroom can be a lot like politics where there are two sides and ne'er shall the two meet on any issue. And I felt like that sort of conflict made it impossible for him to see me as a human being. And as someone who was living with the consequences of being the girl accused of murder, the stigma of that, trying to make sense of that in my own life, the first question I was asking myself was why? Why is this my life? And I couldn't think of anyone better to ask that than the man who made this my life.
Your life.
And so I originally reached out to him, and I'll be honest, like I reached out to him hoping that if I could show him who I really was, he would recognize that I was not the person that he thought he was prosecuting, that he was wrong. And then the pandemic happened, and this meeting that I thought we were going to have immediately after I asked him didn't take place because the world was imploding. And so we spent 2 years corresponding before we ever met in person. And those 2 years were filled with frustrating conversations about the case, but they were also filled with like just personal revelations. We are a shared love of animals, a shared love of classical music, a shared love of Lord of the Rings. He was stunned, and very quickly had a shift in perspective about who I was because I had reached out to him. It was just unheard of. And he was even unsure of whether it was even legal for him to communicate with me. Yes, because it had never been done before. And so he looked into case law to see if it was even allowed for him.
Because he's putting things in writing.
Yes, exactly. And he was thinking, I don't know if this is even allowed, but there's no law because no one has ever tried it. And so he agreed to correspond with me after I made a very public statement, sort of claiming that he wasn't an evil monster, and he felt sort of honor bound to respond to me. And he was deeply moved by the fact that I genuinely wanted to know him as a human being, because he never really had been interested to know me as a human being. Like,
but did something change? Did you get the apology? Did you get any kind of satisfaction from how your repartee went?
So there's this little metaphor that I'm using to describe what it was that I attained from this conversation. This prolonged conversation and then this meeting, because this meeting took place in person after the 2 years that we corresponded.
In Perugia? In
Perugia. I went back to Italy, I went back to Perugia, and I sat down face to face. I had not been in a room with this man since the courtroom. So here was this man that I had not encountered outside of this like legal environment, sitting across from me, wearing a fishing vest, looking like anybody's grandpa. And we sat across from each other. He held my hand, and he listened to what I had to say first. I told him that I was innocent, that he was wrong about me, and, you know, proceeded to, like, make the case, not letting him off the hook for, like, how he had harmed me, but then, you know, showing up and letting him know that I did not think he was a monster. And, in fact, I cared about him, and I wished him well, because I had, over the course of 2 years, gotten to know him as the complex, flawed, but ultimately precious human being that he was.
Did that disarm him enough to reciprocate?
Yes.
And say, I'm sorry?
So he did not say, I'm sorry. He did not say, I was wrong. He did say, you are not the person that I thought I was prosecuting, and that if I were asked to prosecute this case again today, I would not.
Wow. You write about some of the experiences with the prison guards.
Yeah.
And the reason why you cut your hair off short and why you wore baggy, dingy clothing.
Yes.
It's very upsetting to see.
Yeah, no doubt, yeah.
I don't want to put words in your mouth, but explain some of the things that happened from those guards and how far it went.
Yeah. So I was the famous one in the prison. I was one of the youngest prisoners. I was also one of the few prisoners that had all of my teeth. I was a cute little kid, and I was also being highly sexualized in the media as this, like, whore who would go with anybody. And so I think some male guards got the idea that if they could just find themselves alone in a room with me, they could take advantage of that. And so two things come to mind. One is that the vice comandante, the second in command in the prison, for something like 2 weeks was bringing me into a private office alone in the first weeks of my being in prison, and was asking me about my sex life. And it was just like, he wanted to know what kind of underwear I liked to wear, what kind of positions I liked to be in, if I would like to have sex with him. And I like, in that moment, I froze. I didn't really know what to do. I pretended that I didn't understand him. He would get frustrated or bored and then send me back, but he would kept bringing me back in. Another occasion was I was in my cell, and the plumbing stopped working in our cell, so they had to bring in some plumbers, and the guard was supervising the plumbers in the cell, and then they left. But I was in the bathroom sort of showing them that, you know, it wasn't going down the drain. And as soon as the plumbers left, he grabbed me around the waist, pulled me into him, and, like, swooped in to try to kiss me. And I don't even remember, like, how it didn't feel like I had the presence of mind. I felt like I was in slow motion and kind of underwater, and I just, like, swooped underneath him, like, dodging his face, and, like, pirouetted out of his arms, and then went back onto my bed and like waited for a female guard to come by, and I just sat there.
Terrified.
I didn't move. I just sat there and just stared at the bed until he left. Because what was I going to do?
Did it ever go beyond that?
No, I mean, I was, you know, stripped naked and photographed, but that was part of my
process.
Yeah, that was part of the process, and I was routinely stripped naked in order to visit, like, anytime I wanted to visit my family members. So, like, this whole process of prison, I don't know if you know, is like utterly degrading.
Yes,
It's very dehumanizing.
Yep.
And
you lose
so
everything.
You lose everything.
Your rights, everything.
Absolutely. And so, like, I had to, once I was immersed in that environment, I had to, well, at first, I felt like I was living somebody else's life by mistake. And so my family and I had this like metaphor of where there's a light at the end of the tunnel and we just have to like hold on and get through until we get to the end of the tunnel. But then when the verdict came in and I was facing a 26-year sentence, I no longer felt like there was any light and that the truth mattered and that I would ever be vindicated. And so I reframed my experience to be like, okay, how do I make this worth living? When
there's a media circus, and I mean, you name it, Jodi Arias, Casey Anthony, whether it was the Foxy Knoxy headline, now we have Idaho. And I saw something developing in Idaho I just could not believe.
What's
and that was the quadruple murder of these 4 students in Idaho and the 2 surviving roommates. Suddenly the internet decided to attack the 2 surviving roommates, to suggest that they had something to do with it. And I wondered what your thoughts are about that kind of a dynamic that's now playing out.
Right, that if somebody's, like, there's a sort of survivor's guilt by proxy, where if you have survived a crime, that must mean that you must be involved with it, because how otherwise might have you survived it? You know, that I find that deeply, deeply troubling, that, like, not only have they been utterly victimized by this experience, but now they are being suspected merely because they are they're in the play, they are victims of the crime. They're physically present. Like, that's insane. And it's very similar to my case where, like, I lived in that house. That's what the prosecution could prove. But they immediately latched onto this idea that it was a conspiracy, that it wasn't the break-in that it seemed, and therefore the roommate has to be involved.
Do you have advice for these 2 young women who are in this world, that they're trolled endlessly? They have to go through a trial, they have to testify, and they're traumatized by the hell they've been through.
Well, first of all, are they actually being accused by the detectives?
Just the internet trolls.
Just the internet trolls.
Yeah.
Okay, so as long as they,
different.
they don't need to lawyer up necessarily. Right. What I would say is, and this is going to be hard for them, but do not take it personally, because whatever people are projecting onto you, they're projecting onto an idea of you that doesn't exist, that says way more about them than it does about you. Protect yourself. And you know what? Like, you don't have to engage with the online. It really doesn't matter. It isn't a part of who you are. It is in the sense that, like, our reputation matters because it allows us, it's like a bank account. It's how we can navigate the world. Who I am is, and in the eyes of another human being, will impact the way that I can relate to that human being. However, the trolls, you know, I have yet to encounter an actual troll in my human life. I only encounter them online. And
the bravery.
I know, right?
The bravery of it.
Right, and I mean, you know, but there are people out there who will threaten your life, and so you don't know, so you have to live in a constant state of paranoia. Obviously, like, keep track of that, get yourself a victim support person, go to the FBI and have them track it, like, all of that. I had to go to the FBI and do that when somebody was sending me very, very explicit death threats, and they went and knocked on his door and were like, hey, I guess you have freedom of speech, but you might want to knock it off because we're paying attention to you. Like, be safe, but do not take it personally.
My thanks to Amanda Knox, and you're going to hear a lot more of my interview with her tomorrow night on this program, including a very surprising revelation about that prosecutor who put her away, and something that he now does every single day. Plus, what happened to Amanda when she returned to the crime scene in Italy years after her trial, and how Harry Potter helped her to survive prison. All of that tomorrow night. Make sure you join us.
Thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your screen. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.